Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. I know there's still some people hopping on the webinar here, but in the interest of those that joined on time, let's be respectful of everybody's time here. Thank you for joining the webinar today. Today, we're going to be talking about augmented reality with no app required. I wanted to make 3 notes about today's call. So number 1, this webinar is being recorded. So if you miss anything or wish to share this information with a colleague, we'll make this available for offline viewing. And this will be super important because number 2, this webinar is going to be interactive. So rather than just show screen captures of experiences in augmented reality, we felt it would be best if you experience them yourselves. So in order to do this, have your phone out and have your camera app open. And when we get to those screens, I will give everyone on the call today instructions once we get to those each individual slides. That's point 2. Point 3, if you have any questions during the presentation, please use the Q&A feature on the WebEx toolbox that you see and send them my way. We'll gather them up and we'll address them at the end. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, just a quick note of who you're listening to. My name is Sergio Rodriguez, and I am the Director of Sales at Digitaldirect. We are the digital arm of Lightning Labels, essentially. Here's a picture of me with my pre-pandemic haircut. Digitaldirect is part of the Lightning Labels corporate entity that was started as a response to many of our conventional label and print customers asking for more options in the digital space. So Digitaldirect, we handle many different experiences in that digital space, such as CGI, which stands for computer-generated imaging, and I'll show you an example of that towards the end here. We also do virtual reality experiences, retouching, all those types of things in the digital space. But for today, and what we're going to be talking about is going to be how Digitaldirect can help you, our label customers, integrate augmented reality experiences with nothing more than just a QR code. So content-rich experiences can be delivered to your customers and to the end users without the use of a custom app, which is something that a lot of our customers have asked about in the past. So no more app installs necessary. So I want to talk a little bit about augmented reality by the numbers. I think a lot of people became aware of augmented reality with the introduction of the Pokemon Go game that came out a few years ago. That was putting the Pokemon gaming characters and the Pokeballs and integrating it with the real world. So that is what augmented reality is. So it started off on the fun side and started off on the gaming side, but it quickly became a serious business application. 71% of consumers say they would shop more often if augmented reality was available to them. The estimated AR market value by 2024 is estimated to be around $50 billion, which is obviously a huge, huge amount of money. 32% of consumers now use augmented reality while shopping, and we'll talk a little bit about that on today's webinar. 100 million customers are expected to use AR to shop in 2020. We already surpassed that, actually. I left that fact on there. I know it's a little outdated, but you know, the 100 million number, huge, huge number of people. And 17% of consumers in the U.S. will use augmented reality monthly by 2020. These are some amazing, amazing numbers that I like to point out before we kind of dive into this. So let's dive into it. AR, in its basic form, or augmented reality, is taking something that your camera sees and augmenting it with digital information. And for you, our label customers, this means using the label itself as the marker to see augmented reality experiences. Let me step back a little bit just to kind of make sure that everybody understands what augmented reality is. I mentioned it earlier. It's you know, taking your phone's camera, pointing it at something and augmenting it with that digital information. I want to make it a little bit clear. We just had the Super Bowl this past weekend, and I always like to give this example so that people have a good understanding of what augmented reality is. When you have the television camera, in this case on the Super Bowl, looking at the field, and you see that yellow first down marker that tells you where the football has to cross to get that first down, that's augmented reality. You're actually looking at augmented reality there, whether you recognize it or not. That yellow marker is that augmented view that camera, in this case the television camera, sees. So people are familiar with the technology, even if they don't know what the name is. They're familiar with it, and that is what augmented reality is. We're going to talk a little bit about that here and what we can do by leveraging those augmented reality capabilities that are embedded right into everybody's phone that's in their pockets today. So both Apple and Android, the maker of today's cell phone operating systems, have built this augmented reality technology right into the phones coming straight from the factory. So there's no additional intervention necessary from the users of these devices to run this technology. Just some basic understanding of how the devices work. Everybody knows how to use a camera. That's really all you need to know how to do with a camera or to do with your cell phone to run these experiences. Most people are aware and capable of downloading an app and installing one on their phone, and we certainly do build those experiences that run in their own separate applications. But a lot of our customers in the past have come to us and asked, is it possible to run these experiences without having to download an app? Space on your phone is precious. People don't like to take up unnecessary apps on their phone. A couple years ago, this wasn't the case. We always had to create an app to deliver an experience. But now, today, like I said, with the new operating systems, we can eliminate that last step of having to install an app and do augmented reality experiences. And how do we do this? Mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we leverage QR codes. One of our team members made a recent comment on QR codes, and they thought she hit the nail on the head perfectly. She called QR codes the comeback kid of 2020. Most of us in the label industry thought QR codes were done with, but when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, the QR codes became front and center as one of the ways to keep us safe. I'm sure most of us on the call today have been to a restaurant or a food establishment since March of last year, and you'll notice that food places are no longer giving out menus anymore. They've either gone to single-use disposable menus or, especially what we're seeing here with a lot of our label customers, they're actually putting these QR codes onto labels and putting them directly onto the table where the diner can then use their cell phone to bring up a mobile menu. This has been great for the education and the usage of QR codes since people are becoming more and more familiar with their everyday usage. In fact, a recent study by a mobile security platform showed that 84% of people in the U.S. have scanned a QR code at some point, and 32% of people have scanned a QR code just in the last week. I mean, those are amazing numbers. And I only bring this up to show that getting people to point their phone at a QR code is no longer a pain point. It's becoming commonplace now. Everybody knows what these QR codes are. They've seen them. And with QR codes, especially with the labels, we're able to use limited real estate and convey information, digital information, like I mentioned earlier, in augmented reality. So let's talk a little bit about this information and what you can do with it. One of the easiest things that we do, and one of the most common things that we do with our QR codes and augmented reality, is we put videos in them. And videos are a great way of communicating further information on whatever the product is, whatever that label is on, whatever product that label is on. We can convey additional information with videos. Most of the people on the call today have some type of marketing material available to them, whether it's an animated video, or perhaps it's a live video that was shot. Something about your product, a lot of people have this content readily available, and it's really easy for us to put this content and lock it onto a label using augmented reality. We do work with breweries, for example, and the smaller breweries, they like to tell the story about where their products came from, and we can actually lock those videos right onto the labels that are located on the beer bottles and tell their story, something that you can't do with just a conventional label, something that is static and doesn't move. And augmented reality is a great use of this technology. Another cool thing that we do is we do 2D and 3D animations, and we can implement these models and we can make them either static or animated. You can pinch and zoom and play around with them, and I'll show you some examples here in just a minute. This is another great example in the use of this technology. And again, launched just from a QR code, a really, really cool way of using this technology. So this is where the interactive portion of the webinar is going to come into play. So have your phones ready for the next slide. I'm going to be showing you some examples of how we can utilize this augmented reality. And we're going to start with the first one, which is the Lightning Labels New Year's greeting card. So again, have your phone out. And this is a slide where you're going to want to join in and be interactive with us here. So what we've done is we've created a QR code, which you see on the left-hand side there. This is a QR code that is going to actually bring up the experience and actually load the experience in your mobile web browser. So what you want to do is take your camera, point it at the QR code. You're going to see a little link that pops up on the top of the screen. Once you have that link that pops up and you click that link, it's going to load up some information in the background. It should only take a few seconds. If you're on a quick Wi-Fi connection, it should be extremely fast. If you're on cellular, it might take 10 or 15 seconds. Once that information is loaded, what you're going to want to do is give access to the camera. The phone is going to ask you for permission to use the camera. You do have to give permission to use the camera for these experiences, or you can't experience them. But once you give permission to the camera, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to point your camera at this 2021 picture that you see on the screen here. Now, this is actually a greeting card that is being sent out, but it works just fine on the webinar here. So this can also be sent out, like, for example, on email marketing, and this is something that we can do in many, many different ways. But if you can imagine this QR code sitting on a label, perhaps a label for one of your products, and then actually taking the camera and pointing it at the product, you can see this cool little animation that comes up. You're going to see the 2021 go through a little spinning wheel that goes through, talks a little bit about AR. You'll see the lightning label logo come up at the end. The really neat thing then is once that video is completed, it actually gives you a call to action where you can gather further information about augmented reality. It'll direct you to a website where you can get that information. But really great use of this technology. And again, this is the New Year's greeting card. We created this custom quick CGI video, but if you have, again, marketing material that's already there, really easy to take this marketing material and put it in. So that's the New Year's greeting card example. I have a few more here, so if you want to continue along and play along with the examples that we have here, go ahead and relaunch your camera, and we're going to basically be doing this a few times here. So again, launch your camera open. Click on or point your camera at the QR code that you see on the left-hand side here. Click the link that comes up. Again, this is going to load up some information in the background. Once that information is loaded up, it shouldn't ask for your camera permission anymore because you've already given it for this session. But if it does, make sure you do say OK, and then take your camera and point it at the tree. And you're going to see here, this is just some butterflies that pop up. Nothing exciting. This is more of a proof of concept. We want people to understand some of the cool things you can do with this instead of just a video like you saw in the last one. This is a little bit more interactive. You'll see a butterfly that pops up out of the tree there, and it's interactive. And again, this is a way that this is something that you could do on a label that is on a product to just kind of bring it to life and make it fun and make it interactive. So this is the butterfly animation that we have. I have two other ones here. One's a car company, and then we'll show you a Harley-Davidson example here in just a second. These are a little bit more involved, and there's a couple of things I want to point out on these. So again, same thing. Take your camera, point it at the QR code, click the link. You guys know the procedure at this point now. Take your phone and point it at the Mercedes-Benz picture that you see on the right-hand side. This is that video that we were talking about. So this is marketing material that already existed for this Mercedes-Benz, but this is actually going to play a little bit further information. But what I want to point out on this one in particular is if you notice at the bottom, you're going to see some links to social media. You're going to see links to a Facebook page, an Instagram page. I believe there's a Twitter link there as well. But this is these QR codes and this augmented reality is another great way of engaging with your customers and being able to connect to social media and have people interact with the social media profiles that a lot of our customers have. Many of our label customers exist, on the products themselves, but also in the virtual space. So this is a great way of connecting with your customers and using augmented reality to drive that traffic to those social media pages. And I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end on the business side of analytics. So this is the AMG Mercedes-Benz example. We'll show you one more here, kind of in the automobile/motorcycle space. This is one for Harley-Davidson. Again, everyone on the call, ladies and gentlemen, you know the drill at this point. Take your camera out, point it at the QR code, click the link, point it at the Harley, and again, you're going to see a commercial here. Again, the reason I want to point this out is this has a little bit of everything in here. This has the video. This has the links to the social media. At the conclusion of the video, you'll see a call to action that will actually let you go and get further information about, in this case, the 2020 Softail. Harley Davidson motorcycle that's available. So this is a great way, again, of using this web AR technology, this augmented reality technology, and having the ability to connect with your consumers and customers on a really a granular level. So really great use of this technology. So that's Harley Davidson. I'm going to show you 3 more examples here. This one's just a fun one. This was one that we built for the holidays. This was a dancing Santa holiday card. So this is goofy. This is fun. That was the point of this. Nothing special or exciting on that, but we wanted to make sure to show you a little bit of fun side on this technology too. I'll give you a little background on the production of this video. We actually had somebody dress up in a Santa suit. We had him standing in front of a green screen, so he's dancing in front of the green screen. Using this technology, we can remove that background, so only Santa Claus is actually on the screen, and you'll see that he populates on this card and dances to some music there that you hear. Again, this is just on the fun side, so this is an example of a dancing holiday card that we did with Santa Claus. So I want to get into a little bit more in-depth kind of examples on augmented reality and what you can do. This does extend a little bit beyond the labels, but there is a point to this, so bear with me here. This was something that we did for what we're calling, or our customer calls, the Innovation Outpost. This was for Amarillo College. And what they did, or what they're doing, is they're building a new school. And this school is going to be teaching students about technology in the future. And there's a couple different things that we included with this one here. So even though this is a little bit different than the previous examples that you saw, it starts the same. Excuse me, you have the camera that you open up, point at the QR code that you see here. You see the QR code's a little bit different from what you've seen. That little gear mark in the middle is actually the logo of the Amarillo College Innovation Outpost. You see it in the picture on the left-hand side there. I wanted to point that out because we can make QR codes with logos embedded. We can actually change the size of the dots and change some of the design of the QR codes, so they don't have to be that old, boring kind of QR code that you saw previously. Now, I'm going to show you an example. You can try this and follow along, but I'm going to show you a video and show you actually how this works. We filmed this inside a gymnasium to kind of showcase this. But this is something that we built. Again, this does ask for permission to use your device's information. In this case, it's the motion sensors and some of the cameras that you need. But you can see this gigantic building pops up, and it actually populates in the real world. It's anchored to the floor there. You can see the kind of the side section of this. And if you walk, you actually take your phone and you walk forward, you can actually enter into this building. And you're going to see a video playing on the screen here, and it's a CGI video. This is that computer-generated imaging. This was a video that we created for Amarillo College that showcases not only what the college looked like, but what the future of the college is going to look like. This can then be shared on social media. Again, we talked about that integration with those social media types of applications. This is a great use of this technology. But you can actually walk around, look left, look right. You can turn around and walk back outside those doors. You can explore on the outside what the building looks like. And that's what you're seeing on the screen here. This is a screen capture. Definitely try it if you can, if you have the space and you have the room. This application will work in your office as well. This is kind of that social media integration that I was talking about. It does click through and integrate with some of the information that the Innovation Outpost does. Now, like I mentioned, this is something that was a little bit on the higher end. This was done for a college. This wasn't quite a label application, but we definitely want to show it and prove to you that even though that this is something that was done for, in this case, a direct mail piece, it could very easily be launched right off of a label as well. So you're not limited in what you can do with this QR code. Once that QR code and once the application is made, it can be redeployed any way you want. So don't feel like you're limited and stuck with just putting it on the label. If you put it on a label and you put that label on a product, that QR code can be circulated so many different ways. So great use of this technology. Again, a little bit more involved. And I want to end with one last example here. This one is like the Cadillac, if you will, the Cadillac version of this technology. So please try it out. You see the QR code there. You see it looks a little bit different than some of the other QR codes that we showed. The dots are a little bit smaller. We do have the logo in the middle there. This is for a virtual product, and this is called the Cyber City demo. This is actually for an online gaming. So this has a little bit of everything. So if you want to follow along, scan the QR code. Your phone's going to ask for permission to access the sensors and the camera. Make sure to give that permission to that because, again, you need to use the information that's located in the phone to do these experiences. Now, you'll need a flat surface to run the experience, but once the phone recognizes a flat surface, you're going to see a car is going to appear, and it's actually going to place itself right on that flat surface that you see. So from there, you'll see the F and the R, that stands for forward and reverse, and you can actually drive the car around right on the flat surface, whatever you happen to point at. If you have a desk and you point it at the desk, you'll see the car actually drive around on your desk. If you pointed it at the floor, you'll actually see the car drive around on the floor. The left and right arrows will actually turn the car left and right, just like a regular car. And you can actually play around with this device. If you don't like the color of the car, you can click the change color icon up at the top. Click through, try different colors. You can pinch and zoom and actually make the car bigger or smaller. And if you make the car super big, you can actually take your phone and look inside the car. You can actually see the dashboard of what this car looks like. So it's a really, really fun use of this technology. And again, no app install necessary to run this. This is all being run directly from a mobile web browser and all launched from a QR code that is located pretty much anywhere. So if you have a product and you want to print a label with Lightning Labels, we can do a QR code launch. You can actually put this label, for example, on the outside of a box. Maybe you have a toy car that you're selling. You can actually let people experience what it's like to drive that toy car around virtually before they actually even buy the product. It's important to note, too, that this type of technology can also be done on products that have already existed in the past. So like I said, maybe you have that toy car that's already made. You have that box that might already be sitting on the shelf. Really easy for Lightning Labels to print up some QR code labels that you can then put on the outside of the box, and you've basically refreshed your product without having to change any of the packaging that was already existing. Same thing again, perhaps you have a beer bottle and you want to add a logo, a QR code logo to the backside. You can then make that beer bottle interactive. You can hear about where that beer came from or how you brewed that beer. Or perhaps you have a winery and you want to show people the backstory on that winery. You can use this type of information and use this augmented reality experience to actually tell that story. Super important, super cool. So I want to talk a little bit about the analytics because we spent a lot of time on the front end stuff and the experience themselves, but I think the back end is just as important and sometimes it gets forgotten. So the really neat thing about doing these web AR experiences is the analytics information that we can give you as people are using it. Now, this is an example of another holiday card that we did for our corporate parent, and this was old information, so that's why the numbers are small. The numbers are much, much higher at this point. But we want to show you a screenshot of what we can actually provide back to you. So we can tell you how many views actually happened on that QR code, how many of them were Apple devices, how many of them were Android devices, what time they came, what day they came, whether they clicked the call to action. If you remember on those previous screens, for example, like the Harley Davidson or the Mercedes-Benz or even the Lightning Labels holiday card, it actually gave you a call to action that you can click through and see and get some information on. So this was what you can do with the views and the analytics side and something that we can provide back. The other neat thing is if you noticed, it actually gave you the option when you click through, for example, on that holiday card, it asked you to use your GPS location data. This is something else that we can do is we can gather that tracking data, assuming people gave the permission on where they were when they actually used that experience. So you can get some further information about your customers and how they're actually using that experience. So this is a great use of this technology. Again, the analytics data and the information that we can take and provide back to you is super important, and we wanted to make sure to show that and see so you can see kind of this information and what you can do with it. Great analytics data that you can get with it. So we are coming up on a half hour here. We did schedule a half hour for this, so I'm going to save a few seconds here towards the end to see if there are any questions. So if you do have any questions on this technology, please use the Q&A button up at the top. and you can take a look at it and see. You can see the little Q&A box. You can type me a question there. We'll give just a second here to see if any questions come in, and then we can address them and talk about them. So let's just give it a second here. Let's see if we get any Q&A coming through. All right, I got one question here on pricing. So how does the pricing work on this? So real quick on pricing, there's basically broken down into 3 different sections. Section 1 is the content. If you have content, you can supply that to us. That's one cost of it. So if you don't need content creation, not a problem. We can go ahead and take care of that. So that is something that needs to be considered. So if you need us to create content, we'd love to help you out with that. We can either do live action, we can do CGI, we can help you with the videos, whatever it is. Content creation is one section of it. Section 2 is hosting. So there is a small hosting fee, very, very small hosting fee, not much to do that. And then there's actually the last section is the anticipated click-through rate. So we do need a little bit of information from the customers on this. We need to have an idea on how many clicks there may come through. There is a per click charge on this, but it's actually quite inexpensive. So don't think that there's a really high cost to get this through. So if you're doing, a few thousand clicks, you can do experiences as cheap as a couple $100 or maybe a few $1,000s, depending on how many interactive clicks you get through with that technology. So don't be scared of this technology. If you have content that's already made, it's really easy to take this and integrate it with the information that you've already got, and we can put it again on products that already exist. So pretty low starting cost with this. If you have any questions on this, I forgot to make a mention at the beginning. You can send an email to sales@lightninglabels.com. If you already have a Lightning Labels representative you're already working with, feel free to reach out to them as well. But we'd love to help you out with that. Okay, let's see here. We have another question here that says, do you create all the media? I kind of answered this on the last one. No, we don't create all the material. We can use material that is existing, but please, if you do need help creating material, we'd certainly love to help you out. We have a whole division, the Digitaldirect division, that specializes in creating this media. So thank you for that question. Got another one here. Let me just read through this. This is just a couple sentences here. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I got a question here. We noticed the videos were showing the AR a little shaky when viewing on the computer monitor. Is this due to the monitor as a stable when on a label? Great question, and yes, you actually hit it right on the head. The issue with viewing these on the computer monitor is they do work, but it's not natural to hold your phone against a computer monitor in a complete 90-degree angle, which is going to give you the best viewing angle. It does work a lot better on labels, and it works a lot easier on the labels itself. Of course, it does work. It is a little shaky if you do it on screen, but if you're working with the labels themselves, it usually is not a problem. And we can do some tests for you too if you want to try it out and you want to see if it's going to work on your product correctly. We can certainly work with you to run those tests and make sure that you're happy with the product as it goes through. I'll make one quick note too about this. As far as the shakiness goes, there is a little bit of an issue with the artwork. It's a technical issue. We do need to make sure that the artwork has a nice contrast in it. So if you have artwork that has contrast, that's going to work a lot better than something that is just, just a flat color. So just keep that in mind. It is a little bit of a limitation of the technology, but really we can work around that. There are little tricks of the trade that we can do by putting in some visual marks and things like that a consumer may not even notice, but we can do those types of things to help with that shakiness as well. And one more point here. Again, we can do these one-offs. So if you want to try this technology and you have some content, reach out to us. We'd be happy to do a sample for you just so you can see this technology work on your own and make sure that it views. Let me make one more point here. We're right at 11:30, but let me make one more quick point on this technology. Someone had mentioned about labels on bottles. This technology, we can actually curve the videos around the bottle too. So what you've seen on the screen and on the demos has all been flat. But if you have something that has a curve and you want to see what it looks like with that curve, we can certainly curve that video as well. So it looks a little bit more natural, for example, on a beer bottle and things like that. All right, let me just see if we have any more questions. Someone said no questions, but great presentation. I do appreciate the feedback. Thank you very much. I think that's it that we have for questions. So with that, I'll say thank you very much for joining. We really appreciate your time. If you have any questions on this or anything else that we've talked about previously, please reach out to either your Lightning Labels sales rep, or again, you can reach us at sales@lightninglabels.com, and we'd be more than happy to discuss web AR and this technology with any projects that you have. Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate it. Have a great day.